A man vanished without a trace after what seemed like a routine meeting with his ex-wife. There were no signs of a struggle, no body was ever recovered, and no clear evidence was found. But just days later, the stench of death began to spread across garbage dumps and coastal waters in Korea. It wasn't until May 27, 2019, that the case was officially reported. A man contacted the police to say that his older brother, named Kang, had gone missing. Kang had gone to meet his ex-wife and son 2 days earlier, and then disappeared without a word. Police quickly reached out to Kang's ex-wife, Yu-jeong. She claimed that Kang had tried to sexually assault her at a homestay, but failed, and then fled in a hurry. She said she had no idea where he went afterward. Based on her statement, police began reviewing surveillance footage from around the homestay. Security cameras clearly showed Kang entering the homestay at 4:20 p.m. on May 25th, but there was no footage of him ever leaving. His car remained parked in the homestay's lot for 3 days, yet his phone's GPS showed activity miles away in the downtown area. These odd inconsistencies led police to suspect that this wasn't just a missing person case, it might be a homicide. Investigators used luminol spray to examine the room where Kang had stayed. The test revealed blood traces in multiple areas: the bathroom floor, the living room, the kitchen, and even the ceiling of the bedroom. Faced with this evidence, police returned to question Yu-jeong. She insisted that Kang had tried to attack her, and in a moment of panic, she stabbed him in self-defense. However, lab analysis began to poke holes in her version of events. Blood samples collected from the homestay contained traces of sleeping medication. This critical detail led police to rule out the possibility that Kang initiated an attack. The investigation shifted decisively toward premeditated murder. Detectives were now convinced that Kang was dead, and the prime suspect was Yu-jeong. The biggest obstacle for investigators, however, was that Kang's body still hadn't been found. Without a corpse, charging Yu-jeong with murder could prove extremely difficult due to the lack of direct physical evidence. This raised a chilling new question. What could have driven her to kill her former husband? To answer that, police began digging into the suspect's background. Their investigation revealed that Yu-jeong was born in 1983 on Jeju Island, where she spent her entire childhood and school years. She grew up in a wealthy household. Her father owned a major car rental company and held numerous properties both on Jeju Island and in Gimpo City. Thanks to her privileged upbringing, money had never been a concern for Yu-jeong. During her college years, Yu-jeong met her first husband, Kang. His family wasn't wealthy, but he was a diligent student and hard worker. While still in school, he entered a screenwriting competition organized by the National Museum of Korea and won an award. He later pursued a PhD in law, continuously striving to sharpen his professional skills. After years of being together, Yu-jeong and Kang got married on June 11, 2013. As students, they traveled abroad together, volunteered in various programs, and were virtually inseparable. However, after they moved in together, cracks in their relationship began to show. Raised in a wealthy household, Yu-jeong was used to spending freely without concern. Even after marrying Kang, she chose not to work, continued shopping impulsively, and maintained the same extravagant lifestyle. In contrast, Kang had no financial support from his family. In fact, he occasionally had to send money back to his parents. On top of that, he was in the middle of a demanding PhD program, and his part-time job paid very little, forcing him to live on a tight budget. This financial imbalance became a source of conflict. The two had a major argument even during their honeymoon. When they returned to Korea, Yu-jeong immediately headed to a duty-free store at the airport, picking out luxury items and taking a long time to finish shopping. Meanwhile, the boarding announcements kept echoing through the terminal, but Yu-jeong showed no urgency. She continued browsing in other stores. Kang, both anxious and frustrated, urged her to stop buying things and board the plane, worried that others would grow irritated by the delay. Instead of listening, Yu-jeong lashed out, yelling at Kang, accusing him of being too poor to have any say in how she spent her money. She refused to leave the store until she had bought everything she wanted. Left with no choice, Kang boarded the plane alone. However, since they had booked a pair ticket, One passenger couldn't travel alone. He was forced to disembark and look for Yu-jeong. When he found her still casually shopping as if nothing had happened, Kang lost his temper. The argument escalated, and they missed their flight. That incident was just the beginning of their long string of troubles. After marriage, their financial situation remained unstable. To make matters worse, Yu-jeong became pregnant. The costs of childbirth and raising a child quickly mounted, pushing them to the point of frequently borrowing money. This lifestyle began to wear on Yu-jeong. Having grown up in comfort and never having to worry about money, she couldn't handle the stress of financial hardship. Her temper grew shorter, and she began verbally and physically abusing Kang. On one occasion, in a fit of rage, Yu-jeong threw a phone at Kang's face, injuring his eye and landing him in the hospital for several days. As her behavior became increasingly unacceptable, Kang could no longer endure the situation. In 2016, he filed for divorce. By early 2017, their marriage was officially over. Due to his unstable income, Kang was not granted custody of their son and was ordered to pay Yu-jeong $295 per month in child support. Despite this, Kang continued to fulfill his responsibilities as a father. In addition to his academic research, he worked side jobs whenever possible to earn extra money, hoping to provide a better life for his son. However, his efforts did not guarantee him access to his child. Legally, a parent who pays child support on time each month has the right to visit their child. But for 2 consecutive years, Yu-jeong came up with countless excuses to block Kang from seeing his son. Concerned by her prolonged silence and erratic behavior, Kang began to worry about his son's emotional well-being and safety. Aware of Yu-jeong's unstable temperament, he filed a lawsuit accusing her of violating his visitation rights. After she failed to appear in court 3 times, the judge ruled that Yu-jeong must allow Kang to visit his son at least twice a month. Believing that the court order would finally put an end to her obstruction, Kang began counting the days until he could see his son again. He carefully saved up money to buy gifts for each visit, excited to spend time with the little boy. But when the court-approved date arrived, Yu-jeong still refused to let him into the apartment. Kang waited outside her home day and night, hoping to catch even a glimpse of his child, but his ex-wife adamantly kept the boy inside. Shortly after, in November 2017, Yu-jeong met a firefighter named Hong Tae-wee, and the two got married. Hong didn't like the fact that she was still in contact with her ex-husband, and Yu-jeong herself had no intention of letting her son have a relationship with his biological father. She assumed that if she rejected Kang a few more times, he would give up entirely. Realizing the growing risks his son might face in this new family, Kang feared the boy would be mistreated. On May 9, 2019, he returned to court, filing a formal complaint accusing Yu-jeong of defying the court's previous ruling. In response, the court issued an order requiring Yu-jeong to allow Kang to see his son no later than May 25th. Feeling that Kang was now interfering too deeply in her marriage, Yu-jeong, humiliated like never before, vowed to make him pay. Around that same time, starting on May 10, 2019, Yu-jeong began searching online for how to commit murder without leaving evidence. She researched lethal doses of nicotine, the weight of a body after cremation, and other disturbing topics. As the days passed, her mind became fixated on one single goal: to make her ex-husband disappear forever. A few days later, on May 17th, Yu-jeong feigned insomnia to trick a doctor into prescribing her sedatives. 4 days later, she traveled to Jeju Island, scouting for a remote homestay with limited security cameras. Before departing, she stopped by a supermarket purchasing a knife, bleach, rubber gloves, and duct tape. At checkout, she remained calm and composed, even smiling as she asked the cashier to add reward points to her membership card. With everything she needed in hand, Yu-jeong took the initiative to contact her ex-husband Kang for the first time in a long while. She mentioned their upcoming court-mandated visitation and unexpectedly suggested that the 3 of them take a short family trip to Jeju Island. Hearing this, Kang was overwhelmed with joy. He thought that perhaps Yu-jeong had finally changed her mind. Despite all the times she had prevented him from seeing their son, Kang held no resentment toward her. He was only worried about his child's well-being and believed that maintaining a good relationship with his ex-wife would help ensure their son was treated well. So, on May 25th, 2019, Yu-jeong picked up their son from her parents' house and met with Kang. After years of separation, Kang finally reunited with the boy he had longed to see. He took his son to an amusement park, bought him toys, clothes, and his favorite snacks. Throughout the outing, Kang was attentive and gentle, holding his son's hand, wiping away sweat, and reminding him to drink water under the hot sun. Later that afternoon, Yu-jeong brought Kang and the child to a remote homestay she had booked in advance. While father and son played together in the bedroom, she went into the kitchen to prepare a beef curry meal. The strong smell of curry helped mask the sleeping pills she secretly mixed into Kang's portion. After carefully blending the sedatives into the sauce, Yu-jeong set the food on the table with a calm, composed expression, like nothing was out of the ordinary. Just seconds after the meal, the drug took effect faster than expected. Yu-jeong quickly led her son into another room and turned on a video game to keep him distracted. Then she returned to the bedroom, grabbed the knife she had hidden earlier, and began stabbing Kang as he lay on the floor. Startled by the pain, Kang briefly regained consciousness and tried to crawl toward the door, but the drugs in his system weakened him to the point that he couldn't fight back. Blood quickly spread across the floor, and Kang eventually collapsed, silent and unconscious. Without wasting any time, Yu-jeong retrieved the tools she had prepared and began executing her plan. With a background in chemistry and self-taught knowledge of human anatomy, she carried out the process with precision and determination. Notably, she also used a highly corrosive chemical to destroy certain body parts, making future DNA identification nearly impossible, even for the police. At exactly 9:25 p.m. that night, Kang's younger brother texted him to ask how the visit went. An hour later, having just finished her gruesome work, Yu-jeong used Kang's phone to reply, saying she was busy working in the lab and her phone had died, which was why she hadn't responded sooner. 2 days later, when Kang failed to show up for another scheduled meeting and couldn't be reached by phone, his brother grew suspicious and immediately contacted the police. On May 26, 2019, Yu-jeong dropped her son off at her parents' home and went alone to a local supermarket. There, she purchased 30 garbage bags and rubber gloves before returning to the homestay to finish dismembering Kang's body. During the bone-cutting process, she accidentally sliced her own hand with the blade. The next morning, she continued cleaning the crime scene until nearly noon. Around 12 p.m. on May 27th, she checked out of the homestay. Security cameras captured her leaving with multiple large trash bags and a suitcase. Not long after, she drove to the nearest landfill and disposed of the first 3 bags. About an hour later, at 1 p.m., Yu-jeong was seen casually chatting and laughing on the phone with friends as she checked into another hotel. Once settled in, she went to a hospital to treat the injury on her hand, leaving behind medical records as part of her cover-up. That evening, Yu-jeong returned to her hotel and began staging a fake crime scene. Using Kang's phone, she sent a message to her own number, falsely claiming that he had tried to assault her due to uncontrollable urges and begged her not to report him, citing his struggles to find a job after graduation. After crafting this fabricated evidence, Yu-jeong gathered the blood-stained items, wiped down any traces, and carefully sorted everything for disposal. Continuing with her calculated plan, on the night of May 28th at 8:30 p.m., Yu-jeong boarded a ferry from Jeju Port to Wando Island. An hour later, she retrieved a black bag from her suitcase and threw it into the ocean. The ferry's onboard security camera captured the act, but due to distance and low lighting, it was impossible to identify the bag's contents. Once the ferry docked, Yu-jeong drove through the night toward Gimpo. Along the way, she ordered an electric saw and had it shipped to her father's apartment. When she arrived, she stopped by a nearby store to purchase a dust-proof outfit, then entered the apartment to continue disposing of Kang's remains. On May 29th, she began dropping off garbage bags at various public dumpsters around the area. By the morning of May 30th, Yu-jeong returned to her home in Incheon. In an emotional state, she cried while telling her current husband that her ex-husband had tried to assault her during their time on Jeju Island. To make her story more convincing, she showed him the text message, which in reality, she had sent to herself using Kang's phone. Not long after, Kang's younger brother called to ask about his whereabouts. Yu-jeong responded with anger, repeatedly accusing Kang of prior assault and declaring she would take him to court. Even more bizarrely, shortly after that conversation, she calmly went to a store to return several unused items from the murder. On June 1st, 2019, after collecting sufficient evidence, police raided Yu-jeong's residence and arrested her. At the scene, they recovered several tools used in the crime, including a blood-stained belt belonging to Kang and a small packet of sleeping pills. News of the arrest quickly spread through the neighborhood, leaving many residents in shock. Neighbors described Yu-jeong as polite, soft-spoken, and even generous, often sharing unused household goods with others. No one could have imagined that behind her pleasant demeanor was someone capable of such a cold-blooded act. Using witness statements and surveillance footage, police began tracing Yu-jeong's steps, launching detailed searches at both the dumpsters and coastal areas where she had discarded trash bags. However, they were unable to recover any part of the victim's remains. During the course of the investigation, authorities thought they had found traces several times, but forensic tests confirmed the remains were from animals, not human. Because investigators were never able to recover any body parts that could be conclusively identified as Kang's, by the time the trial concluded, the family was forced to hold a funeral with an empty casket. As a symbolic gesture, they placed 7 strands of hair found inside Kang's favorite hat into the coffin, one final way to say goodbye. Public outrage quickly turned toward Yu-jeong's legal team. On July 4, 2019, the law firm representing her was flooded with angry phone calls. Their website became so overwhelmed by traffic that it crashed and was rendered unusable. The very next day, all 5 of her defense attorneys submitted requests to withdraw from the case, officially ending their legal representation. Shortly afterward, on July 10th, the court appointed a public defender to represent Yu-jeong. Her first trial began at 10:30 a.m. on August 12, 2019. But by 5:30 a.m. that morning, members of the public were already lining up outside the courthouse to witness the proceedings. What happened after the hearing made headlines. As Yu-jeong was being escorted into the prisoner transport van, chaos broke out at the scene. Although police had already released her identity, Yu-jeong repeatedly used her long hair to cover her face, trying to avoid the cameras. Her actions only fueled public anger. People in the crowd began yelling, demanding that she show her face. In the midst of the uproar, one individual pushed through the barricades and tried to pull her hair aside to reveal her face to the cameras. As news of the murder spread, Yu-jeong's current husband, Tae-wee, began to suspect that she might have also harmed her own biological son. Both of them had been married previously, and each had a son from their prior relationships. After remarrying, Tae-wee hoped to start a new family with Yu-jeong and sent his son to live with his grandparents in the meantime. Then, in November 2018, Yu-jeong suffered a miscarriage after just a short time into her pregnancy. After that, she became increasingly unstable and emotionally volatile. Hoping it might help her recover from the trauma, Tae-wee decided to bring his 5-year-old son back home to live with them. So, on February 28, 2019, Tae-wee brought his son home from his grandparents' house. Yu-jeong appeared to take great interest in the boy, but later that night, she claimed she had a cold and said she couldn't sleep next to a child. She moved to a separate room to sleep alone. The following afternoon, March 1st, Yu-jeong prepared a beef curry lunch for Tae-wee and his son. After they finished eating, she poured 2 glasses of water and handed them to her husband and the boy. Not long after drinking, both of them fell into a deep sleep. But the next morning, Tae-wee woke up in shock to find his son lying motionless in bed. The child's face had lost all color, pale and lifeless. On the bedsheet, a red stain was visible, blood that had leaked from the boy's mouth. At the time, the police concluded that the cause of death was sudden suffocation. They initially speculated that Tae-wee might have accidentally rolled over in his sleep and placed his leg across his son's chest, causing the fatal incident. Tae-wee believed this explanation at first, until the murder of Yu-jeong's ex-husband came to light. That's when the coincidence began to seem suspicious. As a result, forensic investigators reopened the case. Their re-examination confirmed that Tai-Wei's son had died from asphyxiation caused by external pressure, not simply someone unknowingly lying on him. The autopsy revealed that both the child's face and chest had been forcefully compressed at the same time. Only significant pressure could have caused the kind of trauma that led to the boy's death. Furthermore, toxicology reports found traces of curry in the boy's stomach, along with sedatives in his bloodstream. However, because the child had recently shown signs of a mild cold, it was not unusual for him to have taken over-the-counter children's cold medicine, which often contains small amounts of drowsiness-inducing ingredients. This made it difficult to determine whether the sedative was administered deliberately. Still, the bloodstains on the bed suggested that the child had died while completely unconscious. There were no signs of struggle or movement, raising the possibility that he had been drugged. In addition, unintentional suffocation by an adult usually occurs with infants, not 5-year-olds who are capable of resisting or waking someone up. This led Tai-Wei to wonder whether his wife had drugged him too. A few days after the child's death, Yu-jeong suddenly insisted that Tai-Wei dye his hair, saying it had turned gray. Since hair dye can interfere with toxicology testing, it raised suspicions that Yu-jeong feared police might detect traces of sedatives in his hair. Those suspicions intensified when prosecutors revealed an audio recording as evidence. Just 1 week before the boy's death, Yu-jeong had made comments that implied she wanted to get rid of the child. Moreover, in a fit of rage, she had threatened to kill Tai-Wei's ex-wife. However, the court ruled that heated remarks made during marital arguments were not sufficient grounds to convict her. Due to a lack of direct evidence, the case alleging that Yu-jeong had murdered her stepson was ultimately dismissed, and she was found not guilty. Meanwhile, criminal psychologists suggested that Yu-jeong's violent behavior stemmed from an intense and unhealthy fixation on her former husband, Kang. While her actions did not appear to target random individuals, this internal obsession carried a high risk of violence. Experts noted that Yu-jeong exhibited traits consistent with a psychological disorder commonly seen in female offenders, including emotional instability, impulsivity, and a tendency towards self-destructive behavior. People with this type of psychological profile often trust others to an extreme degree, only to quickly turn to hatred when they feel disappointed. Their moods can shift dramatically, swinging from joy to rage in a matter of moments. They may spiral into panic if they sense abandonment, leading to uncontrollable behaviors like screaming, destroying property, or even attacking others. When negative emotions build up over time, these individuals may act out in dangerous ways, including committing murder. Based on this psychological assessment, on February 20th, 2020, the district court sentenced Ko Yu-jeong to life in prison for charges of murder and corpse desecration, after 11 separate trial sessions. During the appeals process, prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, arguing that the original sentence was far too lenient given the brutality of her crimes. However, the appellate court upheld the life sentence issued by the lower court. Still unsatisfied, the local prosecution appealed to the Supreme Court. But the highest court in the nation also upheld the life sentence and ruled that Yu-jeong would not be criminally charged in connection with the death of her stepson. At this point, it became clear Yu-jeong, once a wife and mother, had crossed a moral line and become a cold-blooded killer. 2 lives were lost, 1 body never recovered, and 1 child who would never grow up. Was she truly mentally ill, or was that just a mask for a crime so meticulously planned it left no room for doubt? What do you think about this case? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this video compelling, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next true crime story.